welcome to our first episode of season 3.
Yeah.
Before season 3, like it feels so strange. So today we're going to be focusing on our experiences, thinking a little bit about our experiences transitioning from training to kind of our first jobs as kind of qualified family and systemic therapists, and just thinking about how that experience has been and maybe our expectations going into it beforehand, maybe thinking about what the realities are, because I think sometimes the realities don't always match our expectations. Sometimes they exceed them, sometimes they are
less time succeeded.
Okay, Lola, that feels like you've got a story. So that's what we wanted to think a little bit about, because I think especially coming off the back of such an intense training, there can be a sense of, okay, right, I've put in all this work, that's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear about what, especially, I want to hear about what your experiences have been like with that, especially because both of you have had a little bit longer to
marinate.
Transition. Marinate! I like that, marinate. Let's see what flavour is this sauce now. It's been marinated. Oh my gosh, is the sauce burnt?
I hope not.
Ooh. Okay.
Hopefully not.
I love it.
I mean, I can't even talk. I literally started and then,
And you're like, bye guys, I'll see you later, peace out.
But yeah, do you want to start?
I think it's a bit of a weird one because I don't even know where to start. I feel like it's been such a busy couple of years. It was nice, I think, once I qualified, just not having to juggle placements and uni and academics. I think just purely having just work was really nice because you were able to sort of boundary it and sort of say, okay, after 5 o'clock, I'm gonna put my systemic hat off and I'm not gonna do any of this kind of thinking. So I found like it was much easier to compartmentalize. Whereas I felt like with the training and the placement, you just couldn't do that. Because even if you were coming home, you had to do an academic essay, you had to do this. So I really appreciated that. I think there's also like a big kind of, well, I still have imposter syndrome, even though sort of I feel like there was a shift in terms of when you had the trainee segment of your title removed. I don't know what everyone else's experience of that was, but
I guess because you stayed in the same place as your training, isn't it?
So I
around the same people. It was like you've changed, but they haven't. Then if the context hadn't changed or the team hadn't changed, even if you were in the same team, right?
Yeah, so almost kind of transitioning from being a trainee to now kind of a fully fledged qualified professional, whatever that looks like. In the same team that kind of watched me from the beginning. So that was a bit of an interesting experience because I think I felt often just reminded. I just felt like a student, and then it was like, wait, I'm not.
Did your responsibilities change initially, or maybe not? So do you think that's why you felt like you were still a student because you were literally doing the same thing as you were doing in placement?
I was doing the same thing, but I think that kind of transition from doing a couple of days to full-time was something I struggled with a bit actually, because I got quite comfortable with part-time working, but doing that 5 days a week. But also I think the level of the workload increased naturally as you're doing more kind of hours.
And you're full-time as well.
I'm
placement
full-time.
wasn't full-time.
This is maybe not a question for right now, but I really want to know, just because I'm nosy. What was the first thing that you did once you finished the course? Once you knew you'd handed in the last piece of work, once you'd kind of finished?
Do you mean like personally?
Yeah.
I slept for 20 hours.
20 hours?
Genuinely.
Are you part like...
No, I literally woke up and I couldn't feel my bones. I was so... But do you know what? The destination, I think Lola, you and me were like, we had some shared trauma with that.
Okay.
I just wanted to sleep. I took some time off. I just slept. I know it doesn't sound like, I'm doing all these things. I remember
slept.
what I did. Because the last thing we did was end of August, wasn't it? What was it? What do you call it? Arviva.
Yeah.
For 20 hours?
Yeah. No, that was the highlight.
And spend time with family.
That was my highlight.
And spend time with family. Yeah, because neglecting family is a huge thing. So I know this is slightly, but I'm thinking about that transition that we have, not just in our work life, but the change that happens in our personal life, because it's so absorbing, and it changes you a little bit as well.
I'm actually going to check my calendar. I can't remember what I did, and I'm like,
I really
how can I not remember? Yeah, no, I can't remember. So I'm going to go back. It's 2022, right? Because I always get the years mixed. So everything's just rolled into one for me. I don't remember, but let me see if there's anything in my calendar that might remind me.
Memory loss.
Yeah, so Viber exam 31st. Well, I guess because I had started, I didn't do much actually. In terms of, I don't remember doing anything because I think my Viber was on a Wednesday. I didn't think I went back to work that day, thankfully. But the next day I was back at work because I had just started my first qualified post, also in August. I think it was middle of August, literally like a week and a half or two before the Viva.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I think I started on the 15th and Viva was the 31st.
Oh, so there was like.
So I didn't take a break.
Yeah, I started in June. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I don't know if you had any holidays booked already in September. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I had just started. I didn't have any. I felt like it would be a bit weird. But I'm just, still do my induction, but off I go.
Okay, that's 100% what I'm doing. One big job, but that's okay.
No, but you're going to win now, aren't you? Like soon. But you've still been, but you finished in August. Do you see what I mean? So you kind of still stayed working. Yeah. I mean,
I just started a new job. And I'm like, okay, guys,
but part-time you did do something else. But you were still, but you'd have started a new job, I think, sooner if certain things have been put in place. You would have probably still started, isn't it? Yeah. So they'll be fine. They'll be okay. They'll be girls and boys. They'll be fine.
Exactly.
But I don't think I did anything. And then I didn't go away until April the next year. Because obviously then I got pregnant literally like 3 months into starting a new job in August. Yeah. So I think for me, and that is my first baby. So there's a lot of changes and shifts for me, I think. But I have to say that the team I work in, so I work in a CAM service, and I've worked in CAMs before I became a qualified family therapist. So I'm a social worker still, and I worked as a CAMs worker in terms of a social work context. But I work in a different service now than when I was, pre my training. So where I worked before my training was I think it's kind of the team you're in now, was a really at-risk team, was very fast-paced. Whereas my new team was a lot slower, where like the early intervention sort of thing. So it was a blessing. It was a massive blessing to not have to keep the ground running and
I'm going to do a little...
chill a little bit. Yeah.
NHS jargon speak. Debunk. Do you want to say a little bit more about early intervention in case people don't know? So what it looks like in my service anyway context is that CAMS is child and adolescent mental health service. So it's for the children that maybe are not, what's the right words? I hate certain words that we use. So they might have low level anxiety and low mood type things actually, and sometimes it might be a bit more behavioral stuff. So it's just that early, or maybe even like recently gone through a bereavement, for example. So maybe not even so much mental health, but because they've had some difficult maybe trauma or life experiences, and sometimes maybe school or parents might be worried. We work a lot with schools, so one thing that we also do in that team is school consultations. So basically what we'll do is like once a term I have a meeting with the SENCO. Again, SENCO is the special education needs coordinator of that school, to think about any of their children there that they might be worried about. A lot of the times it's suggesting things that schools already have in place. If, again, the schools are lucky enough to have like an on-site counsellor or play therapy. Again, work a lot with primary school children as well, just before things get really tough, before adolescents sometimes is what we work with there. So that's what it looks like, so the early intervention. However, I have to be honest that waiting list in a lot of camps, not just my camp service, is super long. So they might start off as early intervention when they actually got referred, but by the time we see them, sadly, sometimes things have escalated. Sometimes the things have got better, they don't even need us anymore, because when you are waiting, we don't just leave you. We do provide some sort of online sort of text-based sort of things that people can sort of tune into. And also parents can call us and school can call us to say, hi, can I just check this up? Things are getting worse. So sometimes they move in between teams before we even get to see them properly. But I guess the idea though, which is a great idea, I think, is that get in there early before things get worse and kind of equip
young people and families on how to maybe sometimes self-manage the difficulties. A lot of the times it might be more CBT type thing, which is cognitive behavioral therapy type thing. But obviously I bring my own systemic lens into that as well, even if I do, do stuff like that. So I hope that makes sense.
And I'm really glad I tested out, because in my head early intervention means something completely different.
Really, because I think in adults it might look different.
It's early intervention in psychosis.
Yeah,
so that's why I was like,
about.
Okay, so I'm glad I tested on.
Yeah.
I'm on the other end of that, where I sort of work. I work in a crisis team, of course.
Yeah.
Which has been interesting, because I think what you said, sort of, Lola, was, I'm so happy that this is a bit more, the new kind of context you've gone into is a bit more, would you use the word relax? I don't know what word you would use.
What, the new context?
Yeah.
I'm anxious, like I used to be, in terms of, again, like I said, there's a long waiting list.
Yeah.
So what that means is I'm still quite busy. Like, it's not like I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
But in terms of managing risk, for example, we're not meant to manage anything risky. Like, if we're thinking that young person is becoming quite risky, then we're thinking about moving them to a different team, even if we haven't seen them for the initial assessment yet. So in that case, I feel like, I can breathe a bit more. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
And also, like, in terms of the length of work as well, it's meant to be literally 6 sessions. Even,
wow, that's really
brief. So really brief intervention. If needed, we can extend to 12 sessions. But that's because obviously if it's going to that long, we're now thinking this is not an intervention anymore. This is obviously a bit more long-standing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But again, like I said, due to demand and how busy things are, sometimes we do keep them in our team for those 12 sessions and see, okay, if things are not better by then, can we just try to do we need to move you on to a different team that can meet the needs better for that young person or that family.
Yeah, I think as you were talking, I was thinking about us having work. We all work in very different settings, and kind of how our you kind of shared your experiences around. Okay, in some ways it's easier for you, but in other ways it's not. And I think that just comes with working in the NHS. And I think something that I've had to kind of grapple is working in a crisis team. It's quite. It's quite intense, and it's kind of can be quite scary, especially if you're very risk averse. But I think that was something I was able to sort of develop in terms of familiarising myself with risk, which was good. But I think also that means I've had to be much more boundaried around work and just be like, I have to shut off there. Because I feel like the kind of work is quite scary in the context of I work with a lot of kind of self-harm and suicide. So sometimes I think there is a level of anxiety that you can quickly develop in those types of areas of work. So I feel like from trainee to qualifying, my transition has been around trying to be much more kind of boundaried with my work and my personal life and not kind of let it impede with one another.
Because I was about to ask, when did you notice that actually did it ever cross over? Or did you get to nip in the bud before it did, or did you notice that it was and then you were able to?
I think in the beginning, when you, for example, you can't really say when a crisis is going to happen, but sometimes it'll be 4:40 p.m. and something will happen, and
on a Friday.
Always on a Friday, guys. When I was in a crisis, always on a Friday.
And
or the day after you come back from annual leave, it's like, and
it's like
everything blows up.
You do have to manage that, and sometimes that does mean staying past your working hours, and sometimes you do go home and be like, did I take the appropriate actions that I should have taken? Did I do the right thing? Could I have done something different? And I find sometimes going into that kind of overthinking cycle, and it's a bit of illusion of control, really. Because how much of this can we control? It's sort of just a small segment in these people's lives that we work with. But so I think for me that's been kind of a big thing, trying to be boundaried, and I've developed more kind of interest in particular areas. Do you want to share? I liked attachment. You already knew I love. I love a bit of attachment. But now it's like a completely different level of it. Extreme interest in attachment.
Extreme attachment.
I'm quite similar about it, and that's why I did last week. I said I had to go on that training because I almost missed it. It was an ABFT one by one of the co-founders, the lady.
Oh yes, Susan Levi.
She's actually really sweet. There's a part 2 next month, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I don't want to get into it because they can be quite directive, which I really liked. I was like, you know what? Sometimes we still need a directive approach when we work with some families. But anyway, we could talk about that another time. But attachment.
Yeah, and kind of like EMDR is a recent one. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I really want to.
But basically, trains me, and I'm just copying her really. Luckily for her, even it's to the NHS, I think we talk about your trust actually being a bit more generous in you being able to go on certain trainings and then being able to fund, even if it's part of it.
I don't know if it's the trust. I don't know if it's the service. I don't know if it's my manager. I don't know who I could give credit to, but I think there's definitely room for sort of like what's the need here and what's the demographic that we work with, and kind of like supporting us to fund that.
I'll say it's the trust as well.
Okay.
Just because that's what I talk about all the time. Like, I'm literally like probably obsessed with her. Bless her. She probably listen to this and be like, Lola. And she really fights. Again, this training she's been trying to plan it for ages, even like before I even started in the service. And like I said, I was on some maternity leave, but I got to go on it, last week because she only just got to finally do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think similar to you and how your manager thinks, from what you've told me, is we think similarly, but it's just then when it comes to the money to be able to do the things, there's always a question mark. There's always a But anyway. It is what it is. It's just what we have to do, isn't it? So yeah.
But it's quite exciting being able to start now that you've got the kind of
part.
core training part done, to now start thinking about what are the areas that I want to start focusing on, what are the areas that I want to develop on, because that's a luxury that you don't have when you're training, because you're so
you got to do
focused
everything
on, okay, I need to make sure I'm hitting all the bases in terms of just getting the foundations of systemic thinking. And over 2 years full-time or 4 years part-time, you're doing that constantly and you're not able to indulge. And I say indulge in the nicest possible way, but indulge in your interests and the way you want to take it. So that's so exciting.
Yeah. The background, you're going to see us wearing the same thing in all episodes. It's the same day, guys. We have other clothes, I promise. But we all live in different places. I mean, different parts of South East England. So we're still South East England, but just different parts, like far from each other. So we had to, because we love you guys so much, just book a day out of our very busy schedule. Send my little baby away with her dad so that we can do this with no interruptions. So we do have other clothes. So hopefully future seasons you see different outfits.
And we could have
changed
more other outfits, but that's a level of intensity that I don't think any of us.
We're not there yet. Maybe next season, but time is of the essence today. And also, we're not very tech savvy, so let's just put it out there. So if this is all great, it's honestly a miracle if this all comes out smoothly. So we spent a lot of time before we started recording trying to work out the nuances of the tech, but I think we got there in the end.
So unfortunately we don't have Mariam, but hopefully we'll get her.
And we'll get her input about this definitely on a later date, if we can. So I think it'll be really interesting to hear just her perspective as well. I guess I'm thinking about, now that we're in our roles, Megan, actually you didn't say too much about, do you want to talk about your transition? Because similar to Fazana, I feel like even though you were part-time, your full-time job then became your full-time art therapy. Is it the same trust?
It was never full-time.
So your part-time...
my transition was lovely.
Yeah, you tell us about it actually.
So I finished in September. So in fact, 31st of August was my viva, and I finished. I got a new job as a family therapist part-time before I'd finished, but I was waiting to get my qualification and all that kind of jazz before I started that. So I kept on at the hospital as an art therapist, so I still do that part-time. And then...
Was that your placement as well? Sorry, just to be clear.
No.
You had a different placement?
No. So I had different placement.
Oh, so, nice. Okay.
So I was, and then I still do like kind of stuff. So I run a business with a friend, so I was still doing a few bits with that, but not as much as I had been in the past. And so from September until like mid-December, I was working like 2.5 at a stretch, I would say 3 days a week.
Nice.
I was like a lady of leisure, and it was amazing.
So what did you do first then, actually, after your marriage on the 31st of August last year? So ours was the year before.
I actually can't remember, but I met up with every friend that I wanted to meet up with.
Oh, that's
I'm so sorry to everybody that I didn't manage to meet up with in that time, but people that were around and available, I met up with everybody that I could. I know we met up for brunch.
That was really nice.
I was a real lady of leisure. I
Yeah.
went to midweek yoga.
Nice.
I was living the dream.
That is the dream. Yeah,
the dream.
literally.
And there was shenanigans in that, but I won't bring that to this.
We might ask her later.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I took some time to really come back to me a little bit, which I hadn't done for a really, 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 really long time. So that was really nice. And then I just got really excited. So I was starting to read more about like the kind of sector the area that I was going to be going into in my family therapy job, and yeah, got really interested in that.
And what kind of sector? Obviously, I know you can't share too much.
Yeah,
but,
so working in the charity sector, working specifically with asylum seekers and refugees, and working within kind of a context where people are kind of very, very traumatized from their experiences.
A lot of PTSD.
A lot of PTSD. A lot of very, very, very disturbing. Very disturbing lived experiences. Yeah. So I thought I wanted to read up more and more about systemic work within that area, but also just the literature around that. So I've been doing a lot of reading around that, and reading, and again, kind of coming back to what you were both kind of talking about, the areas that you're really interested. For me, I'm always really, really interested in liberation psychology. So reading so much of Tewa Kawape's book, and like just finding out as much as I can about things that are focused around social justice and like.
You said Tawa Kawape's book, and that's a systemic psychotherapist as well.
Yeah, I think she's a clinical psychologist as well.
Yeah.
And so just trying to really build as much as I can in terms of thinking about how, as therapists, we can be kind of socially active. In terms of thinking about areas that we are interested in, justice.
I feel like she's holding back. But we are going to talk about it. We don't want to go into it because I can feel it.
I'm trying not to be.
But we are going to talk about it definitely at some point. I've got 2 questions quickly.
Yes.
Was this your first experience then with this side of things in terms of social justice, working with like asylum seekers, for example?
No, so I used to work with a charity when I was doing my undergraduate. I was working for a charity.
What did you study?
Psychology. So.
Did I know this?
Yeah.
Did psychology?
Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what? I think it's a odd thing. I thought I'd tell everybody about this, but I feel like not that many people know.
I
just assume everyone did psychology.
Oh no, because Mum did nursing, didn't she?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
I didn't know. I knew we both did, but I didn't know you did. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did my undergraduate in psychology. But I so I can't even remember what I was going to say then.
So you said you had worked for a charity, a different charity when you were in uni.
But it was like a volunteer role. So I was a volunteer befriender.
Yeah.
And that was really lovely, and I had a really, really good experience.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose even not working with that particular population, I think that's something that I've brought into all the type of work that I've done
doing now
since.
Good.
So it feels like it fits for me.
So it's kind of like a good grounding for you. It sounds like.
Yeah. And it's so I've only recently started, but I really, really enjoy.
So I meant the befriending stuff.
The befriending
stuff into everything things that you're doing now.
Yeah, all of I think every piece of work, every job that I've done, or every kind of I don't want to say every interaction, but any kind of therapeutic work that I've done is definitely, that's been the foundation of it.
Nice. So that's actually really beautiful. I feel like I want to hear more, but I feel like you had a question.
I was just going to say, how do you feel from going different types of intensities, but from one intensity of the training to what sounds like a really intense kind of
a different
work.
Kind of intensity.
I mean, meaningful, extremely meaningful, but intense, quite.
Because some heavy stuff I imagine you hear from people's stories.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
but I think it's the nature of the work in general. I don't think you can escape that. Like in any sector you're in, not any sector, any iteration, any form of therapy, you're going to be hearing things that are uncomfortable and things that don't feel like they sit very well with you.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little bit disturbing or unsettling just by the nature of it. So I think with that lens, that's the kind of lens that I look at it with. But
Yeah.
maybe check in on me in like 6 months and a year's
Yeah,
time. I'll
yeah,
be
'cause I
like,
guess it's early days,
pulling
isn't
my
it?
hair out, just like, where is
Yeah.
my midday yoga
We can
session?
definitely, I think, we'll definitely reflect on
Yeah.
once everyone's been in their work for at least a year or so. We'll come back and reflect. Just really quickly, the second question I had was, what was the most surprising thing you found when you were looking into liberation psychology? Because now I'm really intrigued, and I think I'm going to go and look into it. Was there anything shock you or surprise you that you're learning about, you've read about? I said, I didn't expect this to be a thing in this.
Do you know what? No, but it's been, nothing's particularly shocked me, but everything has just been, everything I read, I'm like, I want to read more. I want to understand more, and I really want to embed it in my practice.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes my heart sing, is the best way I can put it, is knowing how the foundations of liberation psychology has come from so many global majority people living in the global south, and how quiet, deafeningly quiet it has been in terms of the Western understanding of psychological interventions has been, in terms of actually there's this whole other world to psychology that we don't think about in the way that we're taught psychological therapeutic interventions that in the West and in specifically in the UK. That it's been so nice reading about it, because I'm like, oh, okay, right, there's this person and this person and this person did this, and that person was based in this country, and this is, and it's been lovely, and it's not been kind of even just like region specific. It's not like, okay, this is all coming out of South America. This is like, there's stuff going on in the African continent. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, and stuff going on in Asia, and you're just like, oh my god, every part of me wants to know more, and that's been really lovely, because I think during the course there's things that you have to hit, there's things that you have to be able to understand and know about, and now it's having the freedom of being like, oh my gosh, I can just read what I want. That was the other thing that I was wanting to talk to you all about, was have you both started reading for pleasure, which sounds like an odd thing to say, but like since the course, what's been the first thing you've picked up, or have you picked up anything at all? I realise baby brain is a real thing. I've just started, but beforehand I won't lie, no. So I was gonna say, pun intended, this sounds really liberating for you. The way you were talking, that word kept popping back into my head. The way you were so excited, and I'm actually now really intrigued. But don't ask me if I've looked into anything the next time, because I don't know if I'm gonna get the time. Okay. But have you read anything up? Well,
do you know what's funny? Do you remember we did an episode on love?
Yeah.
And we were sort of in memory of bell hooks, and funny enough, that's the first book I picked up.
Which
All About Love one.
Oh yes, of course.
And it was because I remember starting it and I just left it completely after that. And I remember saying to you guys, I was so unprepared for this episode.
I still haven't read it, guys.
No, but I've started reading
from
it,
the episode,
and it was really interesting, because I think I'm not sure what attracted me to. Maybe it was because it was on the shelf and I didn't pick it up, and I was like, oh, let me finish something. And but also this just idea around just the concept of love, and I found it very systemic in terms of how she approached it, because it was around how we make sense of it based on our own experiences, but also based on patriarchy, based on our culture, based on society. So that was something I picked up. So I'm reading it.
Nice.
Don't ask me if I
nice
finished it.
reading in your spare time.
But nice to know your thoughts after you finished reading it. My case, obviously, it's been hard.
It's your books.
You've been reading. You've been reading baby books.
Yes, I did a lot of birthing courses and breastfeeding courses. Guys, postpartum has been interesting. But anyway, more recently that I've been, again, like I said to you girls, I know off camera and off recording, that I've been trying to get my head back in gear, because I'm going back to work soon. So I've been trying to I don't know if anyone's a family therapist out there, you know what this is, but if you're not, because we're part of the Association of Family Therapists, there's this thing called Context. It's like a family therapy magazine that we get every 3 months.
Yeah, every 3 months.
Can't remember.
Feels like it comes out quite quickly.
Yeah, I can't remember when I've been the last one. Yeah, literally. But at least we get a few a year. And there's different family therapists. mostly in the UK. We might have some guests, sometimes I'm not sure, that kind of write different articles in context, just to, on different topics. And there's been some really interesting ones. So yes, I think I've been trying to read up on some of those. Like I said, did some training last week, which meant I had to also read some stuff prior to the training. I didn't have to, but I did try to just refresh my memory on, it was again attachment-based family therapy. So yes, I'm just starting now to do some reading and stuff like that, and getting my head back in the gear.
I feel like that's something, I don't know, well, I know your kind of circumstances are different, Lola, but I feel like that's something I've had to actively make an effort on. Like no longer having academic seminars and basically just having content there for you to go and think about. I feel like now I'm having to kind of make active effort to actively engage in systemic thinking, but also whatever news emerging, how to kind of keep up to date with like existing systemic literature. I feel like that's something I'm having to make an active effort in.
I think I would say actually what helped me before I went on maternity leave was the cases I had in the clinic, or the families I was seeing in the clinic. So if there was an area where I wasn't maybe too sure about, too well versed on, I would then obviously get into and go and read up about that to think about how I can translate that to support the families I'm working with. I don't know if that makes sense. I know it can only be systemic. It might be if I've got a family where there's maybe something with diversity in the family, how can I think systemically about that, and how can I be mindful of that in terms of how I work, even the language I use, making sure that the young person especially understands what I'm saying. But so I think it was a bit easier from when I was at work, because I had no choice but to be like, okay, if I don't want to come into the session feeling very unprepared. So sometimes I might either go and look for stuff, or again, because we have weekly, so in my service we have weekly peer supervision, which I think amazing. Like it's been so helpful. People will suggest it, so you bring whatever you need to bring to that space, whether it's personal, whether it's work wise. And there's obviously people that are more knowledgeable and more experienced than I am, so they might give me ideas of what to read or what to think about. So then I'll go back and do that. Or when I've done joint working, which I did a lot of when I started, because obviously I was still a family therapist. But anyway, we try not to work alone anyway in my service. We either do joint working or reflecting team. Again, getting ideas of people that I work with around the reflecting team while joint working. I'll go and read a bit more on that, and that was helpful.
When you're talking, I was really thinking about how, and I feel like maybe we need to have a bit of space to really think about you having a baby and this whole time, because actually, and you kind of hinted, you're like, oh, and then like the postpartum stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, actually, like there's this stuff, and I know I'm bringing this in, but like there's this stuff going on with post uni and post work, and like not post work but work, but then there's our lives, and that's a big thing to have a whole new person in your life
that you're responsible for.
Is wholly responsible, is wholly
dependent on.
And actually, and same for Mariam, like having a whole other person that's dependent on you, and actually just maybe we need to think about how we
maybe, I mean, she's going to be 7 months tomorrow, which is crazy. Like, I can't believe she's obviously getting older, and I always feel like it's just been, I feel like it's gone so quick. Well, there's so much that's happened as well, I think, in that time. But I think it does change. I think I was also thinking about something that you said, Fazana, actually, when you were saying about trying to find who you are outside of that label. And I was thinking, actually, I think it's just a new normal. I think it's hard to go back to who you used to be before some things happened. Even though you might want to pick up some things from the past, but I think it would still look different because you have this additional layer to you. Does that make sense? So it's been an interesting new normal for me, which is like, I'm going back to work. So like, what does it look like being a working parent? Because I've never experienced that before. Does that make sense? Because this is my first child. Like, I don't know what that's going to be like for me.
And thinking about, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But like, Fazana, when you were saying like, okay, there is some, we can't plan for crises, and if there's stuff that comes up, how then is the workplace flexible enough, or because the demands of the work can be the demands of the work, and actually if something happens, it's like, how much leeway do you have in terms of okay, right, I can stay back a few, like an hour
Yeah,
extra, because you're like,
exactly,
no, I've got to go pick up the
Back
baby
up,
from
yeah,
nursery. Like,
yeah,
what?
I don't know
Just
yet.
take it.
What to find out?
Yeah,
But I guess obviously
Sorry to
seeing, no, it's
panic you
fine.
about it.
No, but I guess seeing other people that obviously have kids already that I work with, it seems like people are quite understanding.
Okay.
From what I can see anyway. Again,
Yeah.
hopefully that will translate to me as well.
Mm.
But even now I'm really thinking about kind of my hours have been compressing it.
yeah.
And my manager has been really lovely, and she even said it before I even told her, so I think she was expecting as a normal thing that she's witnessed when people go off and have babies and they don't come back in the same capacity. But again, I've never not worked full time, so it's going to be interesting to see if the workload feels different and how I juggle that with. Yeah, I don't know yet, because now it's even easy, but it's easier not having to think about work and just family life, just think about my baby and my partner and my extended family, but then to now add work and other people's families into that, because I'm a big feeler, like I feel things a lot, so it will be interesting to ask me again in 6 months, like, now you're back at work, what's it like? If I haven't quit, I'm joking. But yeah, I think that's probably it for now, isn't it? Just kind of this is our new normal, isn't it? Just working systemically in the public and kind of private sector charities. Private sector, isn't it? Is it? No, it's just not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit.
Yeah.
I do some private work, but
as well. Yeah, and maybe one day we can talk about it. I think some of us are interested in private work as well. At some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, just kind of hearing about where we're at now, at the moment, and we'll see you in the next one.
bye.
Bye.